HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
A heated debate in the halls of Parliament this morning. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson. The country's leader again defended his position as it relates to conflict of interest claims and assured House members that the Petroleum and Sovereign Wealth Fund bills ensure all of the proper safety regulations are in place. Janae Noel Ferguson tells us that the debate got heated at times.
Proceedings in the House of Assembly got heated Monday morning after opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, in his contribution to the Petroleum and Sovereign Wealth Fund bills, alleged that parties with interest in oil drilling in the country were wanted by international law enforcement officials. He questioned how the government would regulate an oil industry with a potential dangerous environmental impact if it could not keep checks and balances on investors.
The warrant was issued in 2014. We were not even in government. 2014. The question is, do the government do due diligence on individuals? Do they do due diligence? Or Al Capone or anyone can just come here and open an account and do whatever they want to do? Or invest in the Bahamas? Is the Bahamas a nation open for sale? That's the point, Mr. Speaker. That's the point.
But Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, said Minnis should be the last to question the government's position. While in office, Prime Minister Perry Christie charged that Dr. Minnis approved investors to perform stem cell operations without the proper legislation in place.
That the leader who asked the question of do we have the expertise to monitor, do we have the expertise to know, did not ask himself whether or not he had a law in place to govern this new intervention of stem cell therapy. You should be justifiably embarrassed by the position you have taken this morning. So when the leader of the opposition asked the rhetorical question, don't you make checks? And you didn't make any.
And the arguments didn't end there, as Prime Minister Perry Christie again defended his position on conflict of interest claims raised last week by Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner.
Because it was on the campaign trail that this very same member said, yes, he was paid handsomely, and the Bahamian people will make the decision through referendum before we get to this point. So I don't care how much verbal gymnastics he brings in here. He definitely has to answer to the Bahamian people about the conflict.
Mr. Speaker, there's correspondence in government, Mr. Speaker, with the people who are ministers in the F&M government and who are the lawyers and who still are. The people who made the fortune from him, not the member for Centerville. It's the same old contradiction. It's the same old contradiction and smear politics that they use.
Mr. Christie added that the Free National Movement was trying to revive a story that was old and worn out, and it was a claim, he said, that did not stick with the Bahamian electorate. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Thanks so much, Janaea. Also from Parliament today, Prime Minister Christie focused on the new generation of politicians. He said if you listen to the talk shows, some would think that the new generation of thinkers only comprise those who left the party.
Political leaders obviously regret people who leave their parties and who leave having been elected for our side, in my case, Mr. Speaker. But we do understand that people leave for their own reasons and that it's the nature of politics. No leader wants to lose any of his members, but I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that there are other applications, Mr. Speaker, other expressions of interest in hand, and I would not be surprised at all, Mr. Speaker, that in the coming weeks and months, the country would see people who have decided they were once there and now there'll be something else. And that is the nature of the business we're in.
Public service nurses agitating for redress of issues affecting them went to the office of the Prime Minister seeking his intervention. Supporting them in their efforts was the president of the National Congress of Trade Unions. Carla Palmer reports.
We did the same thing a couple of years ago and we got results, and so they just repeated it.
Once again, the response from Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie to the nurses' outstanding concerns has not only been duly noted, but favourably addressed. The meeting, which lasted just under an hour, was all it took for the President of the National Congress of Trade Unions, John Pinder, to declare to ZNS News the issues resolved.
The PHA nurses were paid, public health nurses were not paid. The Prime Minister, as the Minister of Finance, would have been able to say whether or not finances were in place or not. So we spoke to Mr. Simon Wilson, who's the Deputy Finance Secretary, who was able to say that Ministry of Health is in a position to make payments. Spoke to the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Marco Rose from the Ministry of Health, who has now indicated that a cabinet paper has been completed, that the Minister of Labour will take that to cabinet sometime today to get that approved, and these nurses ought to be paid by some Treasury voucher no later than Wednesday.
According to Pinder, payments are outstanding for 189 nurses, including 66, who recently graduated in May and have only been receiving a stipend, as opposed to the full salary they are entitled to. Pinder says with the issues resolved, hopefully in the future it would not have to go as far as the Prime Minister.
We believe the government must now make a decision to ensure all these nurses come under one governance. Okay, I think this double system is really killing the nurses. It appears though PHA nurses are being treated better than the nurses in public health, but they all have the same level of responsibility, and for the most part they are at high risk. And so we really would like to see one governance controlling nurses. Either it can be PHA control all nurses, or it can be the Ministry of Health control all nurses, but this double standard has to discontinue.
The nurses' outstanding issues resolved just in time for the Christmas holiday. Carla Palmer, ZNS Network News.